Everything you know about organ transplants is wrong. The future isn't plastic, it isn't metal, and it isn't coming from a donor. For decades, we've been stitching parts from the dead into the living. It's messy, it's dangerous, and frankly, it's barbaric. But deep inside a lab in Tel Aviv, a machine just did the impossible. It didn't just print shape, it printed life. A fully vascularized, cellular structure created from scratch. And it is beating. This is Bio Inc., a substance that allows us to play God with human biology. And nobody is talking about the consequences. Because once we can hit print on a kidney, or a lung, or a heart, the fundamental rules of life and death shatter. Imagine a world with no waiting lists, no rejection, no dialysis. Just a file download and a sterile room. It sounds like utopia. But the road to get here was paved with failed experiments and ethical nightmares. Scientists have spent 20 years banging their heads against a wall because printing plastic is easy. Printing flesh is impossible. The cells died. The structures collapsed. The ink turned to mush. Nature refused to be copied. Until they found the missing ingredient. A breakthrough so counterintuitive, it changed everything. So, how did we go from melting plastic to printing hearts? And why are some experts begging us to stop? To understand the miracle, you have to understand the nightmare. The current organ transplant system isn't just flawed. It's failing. Right now, over 100,000 people in the US alone are waiting for an organ. 17 of them will die today. The math is brutal. We simply don't have enough spare parts, and the ones we do have, they come with a catch: rejection. Your immune system is a trained killer. It sees a new heart not as a savior, but as an invader. So patients trade one disease for another. They take immunosuppressants for life, destroying their body's defense just to stay alive. It is a biological stalemate. We needed a way to cheat the system. To make an organ that is 100% you, enter the 3D printer. In the early 2000s, it was a gimmick for making keychains. But visionaries saw something else. They saw a machine that could lay down material, layer by layer. If it works for plastic, why not cells? This idea birthed the field of tissue engineering. But the villain of this story appeared immediately: gravity. Living cells are like water balloons. You can't just stack them. They squish, they flow. They turn into a puddle. Early attempts were disastrous. Scientists tried printing scaffolding, hard plastics to hold the cells. But the body hated it. The hard plastic triggered inflammation. The cells couldn't communicate. It was like trying to build a house out of barbed wire. They needed a medium that was solid enough to hold shape, but liquid enough to keep cells alive. They needed a paradox. This is where the old way died. The mechanical engineers stepped back, and the biologists stepped up. They looked at nature. How does an embryo build a body? It doesn't use scaffolding. It uses a matrix, the extracellular matrix. The glue that holds us together. If they could replicate that, they could print a human. Enter the pioneers, labs like Wake Forest and figures like Anthony Atala. They stopped trying to build machines. They started building Bio Inc. A cocktail of hydrogels, proteins, and living cells, the consistency of toothpaste. The process is elegant. You take a biopsy from the patient. You grow their cells in a bioreactor. Millions of cells become billions. Then, you mix them with the hydrogel. You load the cartridge, and you print. In 2011, Atala printed a kidney on stage at TED. The crowd went wild. It looked like we had won. It was a viral moment. Headlines screamed organ shortage solved. Stock prices soared. But it was a false horizon. That kidney on stage, it wasn't functional. It was just a shape. Printing a shape is easy. Keeping it alive is hard. As soon as you print thick tissue, you hit the wall. Oxygen. It can only diffuse about 200 microns deep. Anything deeper than a few sheets of paper suffocates. The cells in the middle of the printed organ were starving. They had no blood supply. No highways for food. This is the vascularization challenge, the boss level of bioprinting. And for 5 years, it stopped everything. How do you print capillaries? They are microscopic. Thinner than a hair. Existing printers were too clumsy. If you can't print blood vessels, you can't print organs. You can only print skin or cartilage. Thin stuff. The dream was dying. Investors pulled out. The headlines stopped. The bio-ink revolution was on life support. But in the shadows, a few teams kept working. They realized they needed a new approach. Not just stacking cells. They looked at cotton candy. They looked at ice. They looked at things that dissolve. Sacrificial writing. What if you printed the blood vessels out of sugar, poured the cells around them, and then washed the sugar away? It was brilliant. It left behind perfect, hollow tunnels. A plumbing system for the organ. Harvard researchers used this to create a breathing lung on a chip. It worked. The cells survived. But scaling that up to a full human heart, that required speed, because while you print the top, the bottom is dying. Speed is the enemy. Standard printers are too slow. Layer by layer. It takes days. We needed to print everything at once, instantly, like a hologram appearing in a tank. Layering creates weakness. Every layer is a seam, a place where the tissue can rip. We needed a block of marble, not a stack of pancakes. For 3 years, the industry was stuck. Great ideas, bad execution. The biology was ready, but the hardware was archaic. Then, a team in Switzerland looked at a projector. The kind you use for movies. And they ask, can we project biology? This is volumetric printing. Instead of a needle moving X and Y, they use light to cure the entire object at once. But light kills cells. UV radiation creates heat. They were cooking the organs before they could even finish printing them. It seemed impossible. Fast printing cooked the cells. Slow printing starved them. It was a catch-22 that nearly ended the research. The breakthrough came from visible light. And a spinning vial. It looks like magic, but it is pure mathematics. It's called tomography. By projecting different images from different angles, the light intersects only where you want the solid object to be. The gel remains liquid everywhere else, but in the center, a solid, complex shape emerges in 20 seconds flat, no layers, no seams. And most importantly, no waiting. The cells survive because they aren't out of the incubator for long. They called it the replicator, after Star Trek. And suddenly, the bottleneck of speed was shattered. We had the shape, we had the speed, we had the vessels, but we were missing the spark. A heart isn't just meat. It's an engine. It needs electricity to tell it when to beat. Without that, it's just a lump. This is where 3D printing meets electronics. Cyborg tissue. Integrating conductive nanomaterial directly into the bio-ink. Harvard researchers embedded sensors inside the tissue. Imagine a heart that monitors its own health and reports back to your phone. Let's look under the hood. How does this actually work? It starts with a patient's own stem cells. Stem cells are the master key. They can become anything. We program them to become cardiomyocytes, heart muscle cells. But cells are socially awkward. Put them in a dish and they beat randomly. Chaos. We need them to beat in unison. The printer arranges them in a specific alignment, like soldiers in a phalanx. When they touch, they synchronize. This is gap junction communication. Once aligned, the electrical signal passes through them like a wave at a sports stadium. The precision required is insane. 1 micron off, and the signal breaks. The heart goes into arrhythmia and stops. Current printers have a resolution of 10 microns. That is 10 times smaller than a grain of sand. We are building cathedrals out of bricks the size of bacteria. And we are doing it while the bricks are trying to move. This technology has matured quietly. While AI gets the headlines, bioprinting has been passing FDA milestones. But here is the twist. We don't need to print a full heart to change the world. We just need a patch. Heart attacks kill part of the heart tissue. It turns to scar. It never heals. Until now, bio patches are like tire plugs. You print a piece of living tissue, slap it on the damage, and it integrates. This is happening now. Not in 20 years. Clinical trials are already looking at cardio patches for recovery. But why stop at patches? Why stop at hearts? The most mind-blowing application isn't replacing organs. It's creating avatars. Drug testing today is flawed. We test on mice. But you are not a mouse. That's why 90% of drugs fail. Enter the body, on a chip. We can print miniature versions of your liver, your lungs, and your heart. We connect them with artificial blood. We dose them with drugs. We see if it kills the liver, without killing you. This is personalized medicine. No more guessing. We can simulate your body's reaction to chemotherapy in a printer. It's a digital twin, made of biological hardware. This technology alone will save more lives than organ transplants ever could. So we have the speed. We have the resolution. We have the application. But the scientists weren't satisfied. They asked a question that sounds like a horror movie plot. Why print the organ in a lab, when we can print it inside you? In situ bioprinting, a robotic arm enters a wound and prints skin and muscle directly onto the trauma site. It scans the geometry of the wound, it adjusts for your breathing, it lays down repairs in real time. This isn't theory. A team in Australia has already built a handheld 3D bio pen for surgeons. Imagine a paramedic not just bandaging a wound, but reprinting the skin before you even reach the hospital. And then, there is 4D printing. Yes, the fourth dimension is time. They print an object that is programmed to change shape after it is printed, reacting to your body heat. Imagine a stent that is printed small, travels through your veins, and then expands when it hits the blockage. Self-assembling medical devices. No surgery required, just an injection and a program. We are blurring the line between biology and technology. We are making machines that are made of meat. But here is the revelation that keeps scientists awake at night. If we can print a heart, and we can print a brain, we aren't just fixing broken parts. We are approaching the ability to print a new organism entirely. Synthetic life, designed in a computer, printed in a tank, born without parents. This is the Frankenstein moment. The technology works. The only thing stopping us now is ethics. And history tells us, when technology makes something possible, ethics rarely stops it from happening.
The shadow side of this technology isn't just about playing God. It's about who gets to play God, and how much it costs. Will this be a universal human right, or a luxury service for the ultra-rich? A new form of biological inequality. Imagine a future where the wealthy can replace failing organs like used tires, extending their lives by decades while others wait. We could see the rise of bio-haves and bio-have-nots, a caste system defined not by money, but by lifespan. And it gets darker. Once you can print a heart, why print a normal one? Why not print a better one? Enhanced organs. Lungs that process oxygen twice as efficiently. Muscles that never tire. We aren't just healing, we are upgrading. This opens a legal Pandora's box. If a company designs your new kidney, do they own the patent on your biology? It sounds dystopian. But think about John Deere tractors or iPhones. You buy it, but you don't really own the software inside. Could we see subscription models for organs? Miss a payment, and your artificial pancreas turns off. It's the ultimate repo man. Regulatory bodies like the FDA are scrambling. How do you clinical trial a liver that is custom, made for one specific person? The old rules don't fit. We need a new framework. One that balances innovation with the sanctity of what it means to be human. But despite the risks, the shadow side is outweighed by the light. Because for the people waiting, this isn't politics, it's survival. Let's step away from the sci-fi and look at the reality. Meet Sarah. She is 7 years old, and she was born with half a heart. For Sarah, there are no upgrades. There is only a wait list. A list where she is just a number, waiting for a tragedy. Under the old system, for Sarah to live, someone else has to die. A terrible trade-off that haunts every transplant surgeon. But in the bio-ink future, Sarah walks into a clinic. They take a small sample of her fat tissue. No waiting, no tragedy. The cells are reprogrammed. The printer hums to life. Layer by layer, it builds a patch perfectly matched to her DNA. The surgery is performed. And here is the miracle: her body doesn't fight it. It recognizes the tissue. It says, "Welcome home." No rejection drugs. No weakened immune system. Sarah grows up. She runs. She lives a full life, unburdened by her start. Multiply that by millions. Diabetic ulcers healed. Burn victims given new skin. The elimination of human suffering on a massive scale. This is the promise. It is the closest we have ever come to the fountain of youth. And it is being built, drop by drop. We are moving from a model of maintenance, fixing things when they break, to a model of regeneration. And looking further ahead, this technology might be the key to our species leaving Earth. Space is hostile. Radiation destroys our organs. If we want to travel to Mars, we need to be able to repair ourselves. A 3D bioprinter will be standard equipment on every starship. A pharmacy that prints skin, blood, and bone on demand. But this leads to the ship of Theseus paradox. If you replace your heart, your liver, your lungs, are you still you? How much of your biology can be printed before you become a machine made of meat? A synthetic soul. Perhaps that is the next step in evolution. Not biological selection, but technological design. We are taking the controls away from nature. It is terrifying, it is dangerous, but it is also inevitable. The bio-ink breakthrough is here. The printers are running. The hearts are beating. We have spent thousands of years trying to defeat death. We haven't beaten it yet. But for the first time, we have it on the ropes. The question is no longer can we do it. The question is, are we wise enough to handle it?
If you enjoy videos that go deeper than headlines and actually explain how the world works, you're in the right place. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next breakdown. Hit like if this video helped you see something differently. And if you have a question or a topic you want explored next, drop it in the comments. Your curiosity drives this channel,